To discuss more about the president's media chat, we're being joined by legal practitioner Mr. Ebun Adegburuwa. Welcome to News Track.
Good afternoon.
Now, while responding to the question about corrupt judges, the president mentioned that it takes two to tango and accused lawyers and the police as being allies in the corruption process. Now, do you think you and your colleagues and probably the policemen are part of the problem?
No, not by any means. I do not agree with the president, with due respect, that lawyers have any role to play in the corruption of judicial officers or indeed the judiciary. And why I say so is that within the Nigerian Bar Association, the effort have been made by the executive and the national officers.
We have a little hitch there, but we'll definitely try and reestablish contact with Mr. Ebun Adegburuwa, who was disagreeing with the president, with all due respect, and saying that he does not agree that the lawyers are part of the problem, especially when you're talking about corruption in the judiciary. We see that is one issue that is going to be a talking point. And when we return, we'll try to re-establish contact with Mr. Adegburuwa and also see another lawyer's perspective on the president's media chat. We'll be talking to GT Ogunye. He also has something to say. Oh, we've been able to get him back. Oh, saved. Nice to have you back, Mr. Adegburuwa. I was just about to call for a break, but you were talking...
Yes, I was saying that I do not agree with the president. It's just throwing blames. The war against corruption has no focus. The war against corruption has no backing. It has no funding. The officers of the EFCC and the ICPC are not encouraged. They are not well trained. They are left to risk their lives without any equipment or instrument to prosecute the war against corruption. So there is no point in throwing punches at lawyers and policemen. If you check the budget for the 2016 that the president has presented, there is no substantial allocation for the war against corruption. And indeed, when you want to talk about corruption, there is no greater corruption than moral corruption. When you influence judges, when you refuse to obey their decisions, when you cow them, when you intimidate them, when you point your fingers at judges who give orders and you don't respect it, it is the greatest act of corruption. So if you want to talk about corruption, you have to go to Aso Rock first and start from the presidential villa to get the president to obey the orders of court to release suspects who are released on bail. So if you want to fight the war against corruption, it comes in various elements. There is moral corruption, there is financial corruption, there is corruption of the system itself. So we can't just isolate lawyers and policemen. I believe that when you want to fight this war, it must be holistic, and the president is not doing that. So I don't agree with the president, with due respect, that the war against corruption is being aided by lawyers and policemen. I do not agree.
Now, what is your take on his stance about not granting bail to allegedly accused people like Colonel Sambo Dasuki, the former National Security Advisor in the Jonathan administration, and the Biafra leader, Mr. Nnamdi Kanu?
If you notice the presentation of the president, I'm sorry to say it constitutes an international embarrassment to us in this nation, because it was live all over the world.
Mr. Adegburuwa,
the president
we're talking about Nigeria's #1 citizen.
And he said that citizens are innocent until they are proved guilty. And at the same time, he said he will not release a suspect, a mere suspect, with all due respect.
Because he said he has evidence that you keep saying with all due respect, but I do have to cut in here. You have to be very cautious, because we're talking about Nigeria's #1 citizen. I know you have strong views to express, but if you could turn it down a bit, even though you're saying with all due respect, some people may not just take it lightly that you're throwing punches at the Nigeria's president.
The presidential media chat, I say with all respect to the president, constituted a collective insult to us as Nigerians. For the president to say that he will not release a person who he has charged to court when the court has given an order for that person to be released. It is the court that has the responsibility. And in releasing Dasuki, the court gave specific directive to say that arrest him if you need him back, arrest him at 10 o'clock, release him at 6 p.m. So for DSS and security agencies to have arrested him at the gate of the Kuje prison and be holding him in custody, it is to throw judiciary into total humiliation. And when there is no law in this country, there will be anarchy. So we must appeal to the president. We must appeal to all lawyers who are around him, the vice president, the attorney general, with all due respect. Once the executive cannot obey the rule of law, then all of us citizens, we are being called to take on to arms. We are being called to take on to lawlessness. And that is not the purpose of democracy. So I'm appealing to the president and appealing to all members of the National Assembly who have good conscience. Everybody who is charged to court is still deemed to be innocent until the contrary is proved. So Dasuki should be released. Nnamdi Kanu should be released, notwithstanding their trial. It is the responsibility of the judiciary to pronounce the guilt of a suspect, not the executive, not the president, with all due respect. I support the war against corruption. I urge Nigerians to support the president to achieve every objective of bringing those who have stolen our money to book, but it must be done by due process, not through presidential
Thank you so much,
not through presidential directive.
Thank you so much, Mr. Adegurua, for joining us on Newstrack. He is a legal practitioner and he has been talking about several issues that he doesn't agree with the president with.